Welcome to The Pleasure Priority with me, your host, Amber Taylor. This is the podcast focused on putting you first because let's be real, sis, settling just ain't it. So every episode, we're exploring your relationships, aka the ways in which you relate to everything around you so that you can improve your quality of life. Whether it's your relationship with yourself, your family, your friends, a partner, your job, or even how you relate to money, time, your body, whatever. We're diving deep into how you can curate your relationships to get the most joy and fulfillment from life without compromise. So, to my friends ready to prioritize your pleasure and never settle again, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. All right, y'all, and welcome back to another episode of the Pleasure Priority podcast. We're going to jump right in with another episode of Ask Amber. All right, so here we go. This one starts out. So I came in. 28, female, have been with my fiance, Alex, 34, male, since 2020. We'd met at a friend's party, hit it off, and have been together ever since. He finished his doctorate in economics just last year. Since then, he's been working at the uni. I have my master's in media sciences and decided to start working instead of going for a PhD. Okay, so the problem is that Alex broke up with me last Monday. It was literally so surreal and honestly just weird. For the past few months, he'd been acting strange. He was making demands and then dropping them immediately. A few examples. He told me we were going to paint our walls back from dark green to white. When I asked why, he just said, "For fuck's sake, forget it," and never brought it up again, even when I asked. Another time, he came home and got mad because I was sitting on the couch with my head covered in a blanket. I had cramps. He was upset because I was, quote, just sitting here watching Netflix, unquote. Mind you, the house was spotless. When I tried to talk about it, he said, "Forget it, it's not a big deal." Whew, okay. This kind of thing became common. Every time I tried to communicate, tried to figure out what was going on, whether it was something I did or maybe he was just stressed at work, he would just say everything was fine. But he was clearly seething with rage. I didn't even have to do anything. He would find something to complain about: the apartment, clothes, me, work, etc. So I gave him space, which apparently was also wrong. I told him I was going to help my parents with repairs for a few days, and somehow that was also wrong because he wanted to renovate the apartment too. Then on Monday, I got a text saying, "We need to talk." I knew it was coming, and after the last few months, I had made peace with it. When I came home, he was sitting on the couch. He didn't even wait for me to take off my jacket before saying, "I want to break up." Then the verbal diarrhea started. He told me he resented me first because I didn't pursue my academic career further, even though I was capable, and he didn't want to upset me at the time. Then, when I started making more money, since he didn't make much as a PhD student, he felt like I should have the last word financially, and he hated it. Mind you, I never said anything like, "It's my money, so I have the final say." That's a rule he imposed on himself, and he hated it. He sends he said he hated our paint scheme, the couch, even our fucking crock pot. Then he told me he had rejected a better PhD program to stay here because I had already started my job by the time he got acceptance letters. Only he never told me he had even applied overseas. He said a few months ago he checked in with a friend who's in that program, saw how they were thriving, and decided that I ruined his life. He said I had too much control over his life, and he hated the idea that I could just decide not to pay for things and fuck him over. I honestly don't even know what that means. He also said that he hated that all his friends loved me and didn't let him vent about me. Then he said again, "I'm done." I was floored. I had already made peace with the idea that we were ending and it hurt. But after that rant, I was just disgusted. I looked at him, probably with a disgusted expression, and said, "Okay." He lost it. He said that this is exactly what he meant, that it was horrible. We had been together for 4 years, and all I had to say was okay to our breakup. I just asked if he wanted to stay here while he figured out where to go. He said, typical. Of course, you're holding the apartment over me, and started ranting again. So I just left. I told my parents, and they're also confused. My dad suggested I reach out to our landlord and explain the situation to see what options I have. I can keep paying the rent, no problem myself. He covered the utilities and some subscriptions. Just to reiterate, I never had a problem with this. I saw that he was chasing his dream, and that was more important to me than a 50-50 financial split. I make good money and I'm happy at my job. I never saw it as slaving away. I always had the mentality that my money was our money because we were building a life together. Of course, I had my own savings and fund money, but I honestly never cared. As long as I felt he was working towards something and wasn't taking advantage of me, I was fine with it, more than fine. Alex is still mad. He's going between texting me like a robot about the logistics of the split to being a seething asshole complaining about everything. I'm not even hurt anymore. I just feel nauseated by him at this point. I don't know. Should I have reacted differently? Okay. And honey, no. No, I think you reacted exactly as you wanted to and as you needed to, and didn't have a big reaction because you were already emotionally removed from the relationship. But there were a few things that I was thinking while I was reading, so I just want to go back piece by piece and put them together. But okay, so the first thing they brought up was him making demands and then immediately dropping them. I look at this as him trying to pick a fight because he was just combative about it. Like, it's totally fine if you don't like the wall color or the couch color or the crockpot color or whatever, but say that. Be honest about that. Don't be passive aggressive about that and bring up something. And then when your partner is willing to hear you out, is willing to listen, is willing to have a conversation about it, is willing to understand what's going on with you, and you're not reciprocating, you're just immediately shutting it down and throwing it back on them and then storming off. No, you're just trying to pick a fight. You're trying to get a reaction out of them. And I think part of why he got so upset is because he was working to get a reaction out of her that she never gave him. And then when he got mad at her for sitting on the couch with her head covered and she excused it like I had cramps, like, you don't need to have cramps to be sitting on the couch watching Netflix. You don't need to be sick to take a break and just relax in your own home that you pay all the bills for. Like, excuse me? No. No, you're allowed to sit down. You're allowed to be there. You're allowed to chill and watch Netflix with a blanket, whether you are cramping or not. And the way that he judged her for it, like she wasn't doing enough. And the way that he came at her for it, like she just sits on the couch all day, like she doesn't have a job, like she doesn't have responsibilities, like she doesn't take care of the house. Like, again, she mentioned that the house was spotless before she sat down, and I don't feel like this needs to even be mentioned. Like, I don't feel like it's a stipulation to have everything clean, everything done before you take a break, before you rest. Like, you're allowed to do it regardless. And again, I think this man was just looking for something to be argumentative about. And then again, this is made even more evident by how everything she does is wrong. She wants to give him some space, hang out with her parents, and now he's upset because he wanted to hang out with her parents and do renovations. It's just like, pick a side. Pick a side, sir. And then finally, we come to the breakup. So even the way it was described, he made his mind up before having the conversation. Before she could even take her coat off, he already said, I want to break up. He was already decided. He was already done. Then he starts explaining why and his reasons. And I'm not coming for him. Everybody is allowed to have their own reasons as to why they don't want to be with someone and why they want to end a relationship. However, I do take issue with the fact that he never brought up his reasons in the relationship. Like, he never voiced concern prior to the breakup about what his concerns actually were. He just acted like he was fine with everything and then resented her later because he acted like he was fine with everything. So, one, the fact that she didn't further pursue her academic career. So she got a master's, but she didn't go for a PhD. She just decided to go straight to work. I don't know why a partner would be mad at their partner for doing this. They made a decision with their lives, with their education, with their career. And even though it's not the same decision that the other person made, doesn't make it a wrong decision or a bad decision, especially if you didn't voice grievances at the time. She decided to go to work instead of getting a PhD. And she got a great job that can more than afford to take care of the both of you. So it more sounds like his resentment isn't coming from the fact that she didn't go for a PhD, but instead went for a job, but the fact that she was successful in that job and that he likely doesn't feel as successful because of his finances. And again, totally, he's allowed to feel that way, but blaming her for it just isn't cool. And then the whole idea that because she makes more money, then she gets the last word financially. This is a red flag to me because she reiterated that she never voiced that. She never said that. She never acted like that. That was a rule that he created and imposed on himself. So that also means that if he was making more money, he would believe that he would always have the last word financially, that it wouldn't be a conversation, that it wouldn't be shared between them, that because he made more, then he would get the last word because that's what he's expecting from you, even when you didn't say it. So huge, huge red flag to me. And then him bringing up all the stuff that he hated, that he definitely could have said something about in the moment, like the paint scheme. Cool, it's fine that you don't like it. Say something. Even when he brought it up before, like, oh, we're switching from dark green to white again, like, stand on it. Explain yourself, like, and not explain yourself from the way of like, why do you want the color change, but like actually voice what you want. Actually tell your partner what's bothering you, what you need, what you're looking for, what you like, what you dislike. Like without those conversations, how are we supposed to know? We can't, no one can read minds. No one can read minds here. We need to be open and communicative. And same thing for the couch and the crock pot. And some things are easier to replace, easier to change than others, but it still requires open communication and a conversation. And then the whole thing about him rejecting an overseas PhD program, like, come on, buddy. One, she didn't ask you to do that because you didn't even tell her you applied and you didn't have a conversation about leaving and doing something differently. And I did look over some of the comments and some of her responses, and to that, she did say that she would have supported him if he decided to go through with that PhD program. She doesn't know if they would have stayed together because long distance relationships are hard, especially overseas. And again, everybody has a right to decide what's the best type of relationship for themselves. But she wasn't afforded an option. He's blaming her for a decision that he made without her and blaming her because he made it, quote unquote, for her. But that's not the decision that she would have made for herself or for them as a couple if afforded the opportunity. So it's definitely unfair that he's pinning it on her and saying that she ruined her life because she didn't even have a part in this. But yeah, it just really sounds like her partner isn't owning up to their own decisions that they made and how they're not happy in their own life. And that's on them, completely on them. Again, you are not the asshole here. And then in regards to her reaction, so I'm actually a fan because it seems to me like she did say it. She was preparing for this. She saw the signs, she saw the writing on the wall, and figured the relationship was not going to last much longer. So she was mentally and emotionally preparing for the end of the relationship. Even though she didn't necessarily want it to end, at least it doesn't seem like from this context, she could tell that he wasn't as into it as he was before and was just ultimately preparing for that possibility. And then the way that he did it with the stuff that he brought up and her saying that she felt disgusted, it makes sense because he wasn't approaching this relationship like a responsible adult. He was approaching it like a child. He was blaming her for where he's at in his life and not feeling happy with the decisions that he made to get him to this point, and then dumping it all on her like it was her fault. And on top of that, he did not approach her with a conversation. He did not approach her with any room for, hey, these are my concerns, these are my grievances, these are the things that I'd like us to work on in order to keep moving forward. He didn't come with none of that. He's like, this is why I'm done, and I'm done. There's no room for conversation there. And the original poster didn't try to create room for a conversation that wasn't created for her. She respected him and she respected his boundaries and she respected his decision that he was finally making for himself and said, okay. She didn't try to change it. She didn't try to yell at him. She didn't try to gaslight him. She didn't try to disprove anything that he said. She just said, okay. Because if you don't want to be in this relationship no more, ain't nobody gonna force you. I'm a firm believer that all relationships should be consensual between two or more willing parties. If any one of those parties is no longer willing, it's done. It's over. It's out. And this man said he was done. And she said, okay. She respected that. And he has a problem with it because she wasn't upset enough. She wasn't hurt enough. She wasn't devastated enough. That is toxic as hell. And for my Love is Blind fans out there in the audience, this reminds me of this recent, what is it, season 7 in the US between Alex and Tim, and how when he broke up with her, she said okay too. And I know the internet has a lot to say about the relationship, but this aspect specifically, like this part of it, of him breaking up with her, telling her that he never wants to see her again, telling her that he ultimately doesn't really respect her, saying that he's done, all that kind of stuff. What other response do you want? What other response do you expect? You told me how you feel. You told me what you want. You told me what your concerns are. You told me what your deal breakers are. You told me that we're not a good fit together and you don't want to be with me anymore. What's left to say? And this doesn't mean that either one of these women didn't have any feelings about it. It doesn't mean that either one of these women weren't hurt or sad or whatever. It just means that they respected the boundary that was placed in front of them. And I honestly think a lot of us can do a lot better with that. But this is a perfect segue to a lesson on exactly how you can reclaim your time and energy. Because it ain't free, boo. But one, see the situation for what it is. She wasn't thinking back to when they first got together and how they hit it off and how they were so compatible and how everything was great and how she had all these plans for the future and she was building this life with him and everything was going to be great, blah, 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 blah. No, she looked at the situation for exactly what it was. He's getting more distant. He's picking fights with her. He wants to break up. He doesn't even like telling his friends about their problems because they always take her side. AKA, he's not willing to grow up or change or take accountability. She saw all that for what it was and said, okay. 2, be decisive. She wasn't here going back and forth, trying to figure it out, overthinking the situation and trying to do things before he did them or, whatever. She was there for him as a partner when they were partnered. She asked him about his concerns. She asked him about what was bothering him. She was doing the work to meet him as a partner, and he was not reciprocating that work. So when he ended that relationship, she accepted that. She decided that she was done too. And she decided to start the process of what the breakup logistics are going to look like and things of that nature. She decided that she was going to stay in the apartment that she paid the rent in and he was going to leave. Be decisive. 3, own the power that you do have in the relationship. No matter what the dynamics are, you always have power in any relationship because you have power over yourself. So she owned her reaction. She didn't do too much. She also didn't do too little. She did exactly what she felt in the moment. Acceptance. And she was not pandering or placating to his emotions or his needs, especially during a breakup. But yes, she was respectful to him, to what they had together, but most importantly, to herself. She owned the power that she had in the decisions that she could make. And in the update, I wanted to say this too. She said, just to clarify, I don't feel like a victim. I feel like something happened and my relationship just turned bad. He behaved like an asshole, but that is the extent of it. Very clearly something is going on, but he doesn't want me to be a part of whatever it is, and I have to respect that. Now, I just have to detangle myself legally from him, and after that, I'll be left alone with my ugly green wall color. I think I might also adopt a cat, as my ex was really allergic. Again, she's owning her power. She's not identifying as a victim. And that's very powerful because she's also not identifying him as a perpetrator. She's seeing both of them as humans. She understands that something's going on with him. Something happened, but it's also something he doesn't want to include her in. And she is respecting that. She's respecting his boundary and moving on with her life. And I think that's a beautiful lesson that so many of us can learn from, is that when people show us that they don't want us, that they don't want to be with us, whether that is in a romantic partnership, a platonic partnership, a friendship, a familial one, a work one, whatever, we can get our shit and we can move on. We do not have to be tied to anyone for forever. Forever is not a symbol of success. It's not a gold star from the world telling you that you're good or good enough or anything. Forever doesn't even really exist for real. Everything comes to an end at some point, and the sooner we accept that, the sooner we can actually start living the lives we actually want to. But yeah, again, not the asshole. I actually think this situation was handled very beautifully. All right, so that was our Am I the Asshole on Ask Amber for today's episode. If y'all would like to submit your own questions, I'd love to respond and give you my 2 cents. So just go ahead, and it's in the show notes, the link to my bio, my website, all the places, and fill out that Ask Amber form with as much detail as possible so I can give you my advice on whatever relationship you're trying to navigate. Also, don't forget that I am still celebrating 100 episodes of the Pleasure Priority podcast with a giveaway. All you need to do is leave a review for the podcast on your favorite podcasting platform, and then send me an email to info@ambertaylorcoaching.com with the username you used and the platform that you sent that review to be entered into the drawing. And I'll be choosing a lucky winner being revealed on the episode dropping November 15th. So you still have time. Go and submit a review so you can be entered to win that giveaway. All right, y'all, that's it for this week, and I'll see you next time. Stay pleased. Thanks for joining me for this episode of The Pleasure Priority. I hope that when you see things can be better, you're inspired to do better. Because remember, you deserve nothing less than an abundance of joy, fulfillment, and all the peaceful good vibes. If you love this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Oh, and hey, make sure you're on my email list for more tips, laughs, story times, community, and all things pleasure. So until next time, keep living life on your terms, because settling is for the birds. All right, stay pleased, my friends. I'll see you soon.